Welcome back. And now for the news in detail. The British Parliament has been officially dissolved ahead of a general election on 12th of December. The dissolution ended the shortest parliamentary session in just over 70 years. The House of Commons met for only 19 days since the state opening on 14th of October. For the next 25 days, there will be no legislative activity in the UK, and the government will act under a special code of conduct. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Boris Johnson met Queen Elizabeth at the Buckingham Palace to mark the formal start of the December 12 election campaign. The United States is training Gulf allies to protect naval routes in the region's troubled waterways. The Pentagon says the naval exercises are aimed at preparing for any Iranian aggression in international waters. For more, watch this report.
The exercise is being held in the strategic waterway separating Iran from the pro-US Arab Gulf monarchies. The 3-week international maritime exercise, the second largest of its kind, began on October 21st.
One of the biggest reasons for us being out here is to build international relations. So really it's relationships, right? Me being able to talk to the other team leads, build relationships. So if a mining event does happen, that us as an international team can intercede and work as a team to remove mines.
The IMX was launched after a number of commercial vessels were attacked in the Gulf from May, ratcheting up tensions.
We are here with the forces taking part in the IMX to increase our capabilities and share expertise with other forces in fighting mines in order to maintain the security and safety of international navigation.
The IMX maneuvers engage over 5,000 personnel, 40 vessels, and 17 aircraft from 50 countries.
The EU has welcomed the peace deal between the Yemeni government and Southern separatists. Yesterday, Yemen's government and Southern separatists signed a power-sharing pact to end their long-running conflict. The deal was brokered by Saudi Arabia. In a statement, Brussels said the agreement is an important step towards de-escalation and peace for Yemen and the region. Earlier, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said the agreement is a step towards a political solution to the end of war in Yemen. UN Special Envoy for Yemen Martin Griffiths has welcomed the move. In a tweet, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says the agreement is an important step towards peace and stability in Yemen. Islamabad and Beijing have agreed to expand the scope of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. CPEC is a flagship project of Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. The decision was taken during the 9th Joint Cooperation Committee meeting of the CPEC in Islamabad. Pakistan's Minister of Planning, Khusru Bakhtiar, says several project milestones have been achieved this year. He said several others will be completed by the end of this year. China's deputy head of National Reform Commission, Ning Jizhe, said both sides have agreed to cooperate in all domains. Led by Jizhe, the Chinese delegation also met Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan. PM Khan said Jizhe's visit was of great significance and will help fast-track CPEC's second phase. He also invited the delegation to explore opportunities in Pakistan's metal mining and agriculture sectors. A group of 2,500 Indian Sikh pilgrims have arrived in Pakistan to attend the opening of the Kartarpur corridor. The pilgrims will also take part in the 550th birth anniversary ceremonies of Sikhism founder Baba Guru Nanak Dev. Pakistan's Chairman Evacuee Trust Property Board, Amir Ahmed, welcomed the group at Wagah border. Ahmed told media another 2,000 pilgrims will arrive in Pakistan today. Pilgrims praised Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan, saying he has achieved what could not be done in the last 72 years. PM Khan will inaugurate the Kartarpur corridor on 9th of November, days before Baba Guru Nanak's birth anniversary celebrations. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says protection of the country's environment is his government's top priority. He was speaking at the 7th Asian Regional Conservative Forum of the International Union for Conservation of Nature in Islamabad. The Prime Minister said Pakistan has 12 ecological zones ranging from deserts to Himalayan forests, which is rare. But he added that population growth and a lack of interest in protecting the environment in the past has devastated Pakistan's wildlife and forests. Prime Minister Imran Khan said the government has now embarked upon an ambitious plan to planting 10 billion trees. He said young Pakistanis will have to play their role to protect the environment.
What we hope is to create enough awareness amongst the young people. The big advantage, if we can convert this into advantage, is our young population. 60% of Pakistanis are below the age of 30. And we find that young people, when you inspire them, and actually all over the world, the young people will eventually drive this movement to protect the environment.
Kashmiris on both sides of the line of control and around the world are observing the Jammu Martyrs' Day today. In November 1947, Indian forces massacred thousands of Kashmiris in occupied Jammu while they were migrating to Pakistan. Azad Kashmir Prime Minister Farooq Haider Khan said the first week of November 1947 was the bleakest chapter of the Kashmir liberation struggle. Speaking on the BJP government's atrocities in the valley, Azad Kashmir President Sardar Masood Khan said Indian atrocities of this day gave a new spark to Kashmir's struggle. A number of rallies, conferences and seminars on the incident will be held in Kashmir and other parts of the world. Afghanistan's President Ashraf Ghani has agreed to meet a Taliban delegation in China to discuss the intra-Afghan peace process. Presidential spokesman Siddiqui said Ghani agreed to the meeting after talking to Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. In a statement, Siddiqui did not mention the date of the meeting, but said it will be held in the near future. He said the Afghan government will soon share a list of its delegates with the Chinese government. The Taliban have not issued a statement on the development. Iraq's security forces have opened fire to disperse protesters gathered on a bridge in central Baghdad, shooting live bullets in the air. Forces have shot dead at least 13 protesters over the past 24 hours. Thousands continue to partake in anti-government demonstrations in the capital and southern provinces. Protesters have blocked the Shuhada Bridge since Tuesday afternoon as part of efforts to bring the country to a standstill. They also blocked the entrance to the Nasiriyah oil refinery in southern Iraq. The protesters blocked the tankers that transport fuel to gas stations from entering the refinery, causing fuel shortages across the Dhikar province. Meanwhile, the US has condemned the killing and kidnapping of unarmed demonstrators. In a statement, the US Embassy in Baghdad asked the government to engage with the protesters. 17 people have been killed in an overnight gun battle at an outpost on the Tajik-Uzbek border. Tajikistan's National Security Committee says a border guard also died in the attack. The committee said border police shot dead 15 attackers in retaliatory fire. It said the remaining 5 attackers have been captured by the security forces. Suspected insurgents have killed 15 and wounded 4 village defense volunteers in Thailand's southern Yala province. The Thai army says the militants struck 2 checkpoints in Yala province manned by civil defense volunteers. It said the attackers used explosives and scattered nails on the roads to hamper attempts to follow them. South Thailand has been in the grip of a bloody insurgency, killing over 7,000 people in the last 15 years. The rebels want autonomy from Thailand for a region bordering Malaysia. A group of over 11,000 scientists from around the world have warned the planet is facing a climate emergency. They launched a study based on the 40 years of data taken from a range of measures. The group says the governments are failing to address the crisis. The statement is published in the journal Bioscience on the 40th anniversary of the first World Climate Conference. They say the climate crisis is more severe than expected and threatens ecosystems and the fate of humanity. The statement by the scientists from 153 countries sets out vital signs as indicators of the climate emergency. The scientists say major transformations must be made in the way global society functions and interacts with the natural ecosystems. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned with Indus News. Welcome back. In Indian capital New Delhi, the residents and environmental groups have staged a protest to press for action on acute air pollution. Despite the air quality in the capital improved slightly, the city still chokes under a thick blanket of smog. More in this report.
Wearing anti-pollution masks, Delhiites of all ages gathered at India Gate to demand their right for clean air. Over the last few days, New Delhi's air quality reached apocalyptic levels. With thick smog in the air, the city has practically converted to a gas chamber.
My eyes are itching and there's some problem in breathing as well. When I step outside, it feels like there's a lot of pollution. So because of that, I'm wearing a mask as well.
The air remains at the hazardous level, more than 5 times the recommended safe limit of 60 particulate matter. Such pollution reading indicates a serious aggravation of heart and lung diseases in the teeming capital of more than 20 million people. The residents criticize authorities for their failure to curb pollution.
We do not care whether it's central government's responsibility or the state government's responsibility. It's a collective failure, it's a collective responsibility, and they all need to solve it ASAP.
Every winter, Delhi is wrapped in a noxious blend of smog from car fumes and industrial emissions and burning fields. These make Delhi one of the world's most polluted cities.
Climate change is affecting the natural life cycles of Argentina, leaving animal breeders and farmers grappling with a crippling drought. Latin American countries are the most vulnerable to global warming. This report has more. Global warming is predicted to have significant effects on the climate of Argentina. Animal breeders are already being forced to adapt to changes in the environment. A scarcity of snowfall and other forms of precipitation lowers the flow of water. According to reports, the country's water flow has fallen by 54% compared to the regional average. This is an alarming situation. Meanwhile, goat breeders compete for water and struggle to cope with the situation.
No, now it is the issue of drought. It doesn't snow, there is no water, all the watersheds are drying up, and because the animals don't get fat, they don't produce milk for the kids. The countryside isn't doing well.
A local breeder says they depend on sheep, goat and horse breeding to survive. Hence, authorities should take tangible measures to tackle the situation. He also believes breeders themselves also need to make an effort.
We must do our job. What else are we going to live off? We only live off the animals. We must make a huge effort, and there are sacrifices that must be made. But we have to face everything that comes.
Global warming is also affecting Argentina's glaciers, which are shrinking as temperatures rise and precipitation levels fall. Well, here's something interesting. Exercise can boost the world economy by as much as $100 billion a year. Really, this claim appears in a study by health insurance group Vitality and the think tank RAND Europe. The study was based in part on data from about 120,000 people across 7 countries. It found adding 15 minutes of daily walking or jogging a steady 1 kilometer each day would improve productivity. This in turn extends life expectancy and leads to economic growth. RAND Europe says the study gives policymakers and employers new perspectives on enhancing the productivity of their populations. The WHO recommends all adults should take at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous exercise in a week. It has been 28 years since the end of the Cold War, but its effects continue to have an impact on the world today. This is especially true for Central Asia, where the USSR's uranium mining could leave the water supply of millions contaminated. More in this report.
The Fergana Valley is spread across Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan and is home to 14 million people. Thanks to the 2 rivers named Narin and Kara Darya, it is one of the region's most fertile areas. Now these tributaries are threatened by nuclear waste left behind by the Soviet Union.
I have examined it myself. There are places there with background radiation of over 100 micro-Röntgen per hour. Recently, 2 or 3 years ago, they have built 2-3 houses there in such a poisoned place.
There has been no mining operations in this area since 1968, but the Soviet Union did produce over 2 million cubic meters of tailings or mine dumps while exploiting the valley's natural resources. Should a natural disaster like an earthquake or landslide occur, all of this waste will end up in the water the area's people depend on to survive.
Most uranium tailings repositories are located in transboundary areas. 14 million people live in the Fergana Valley. In the event of a natural disaster, water can erode the tailings. They will fall into the Naran River. It will be a tragedy for the whole valley.
This is a worst-case scenario that has not come to pass yet. But people's health is already suffering, and environmentalists say farms downstream from the rivers are already poisoned.
The majority of the adult population suffer from diseases of the digestive system, blood, and vascular glands. It is 4 times as high as the average in the Republic of Kyrgyzstan. It shows ecological situation is in critical condition.
It has been estimated properly removing this waste and solving the problem once and for all will cost over $33 million. Until this happens, the people of this area will continue to suffer from higher rates of cancer, thyroid disease, and Down syndrome.
A South Korean service is offering free funerals, but only to the living. The company hopes to improve people's lives by simulating their deaths. This report has the details.
Dozens of people, from teenagers to the retired, are seen putting on shrouds and feigning death at the Hyowon Healing Center in central Seoul. They took funeral portraits, wrote their last testaments, and rested in a closed coffin for about 10 minutes. A 28-year-old Choi Jin-kyu was one of them. Wiping tears, he said this time in the coffin helped him decide on a new approach to life.
Everyone lives in a hot-blooded, intense manner. When I was in the coffin, I wondered what the point of that is. I want people to know that they matter and that happiness is in the present.
The WHO says South Korea's suicide rate of 20 per 100,000 residents is almost double the global average. More than 25,000 people have taken part in mass living funerals since 2012. The head of the healing center, Jeong Yong-mun, says he has helped people appreciate their lives and find reconciliation with family and friends.
I think this is important. We apologize sooner because we don't have forever. Some people come when they have decided to commit suicide. I help to reverse their decision. Later, they call me to thank.
A 75-year-old person taking part suggests preparing for death was necessary for them to have a good life.
Lows and highs of the business world, and now China and France have signed trade deals worth $15 billion. The agreements were struck during French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to China. Macron and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping oversaw the signing at a ceremony in Beijing. Most of the contracts revolve around collaboration in the aeronautics, energy and agriculture sectors. They also included approval for 20 French companies to export poultry, beef and pork to China. A United Nations report says the ongoing trade war between the US and China is hurting both economies. It said the trade war cut US imports of Chinese goods by $35 billion in the first half of the year and drove up prices for American consumers. However, the report did not consider the impact of Chinese tariffs on US imports. It warned global economic indicators will worsen if the 16-month-old trade war continues. Today, Brazil will auction the drilling rights to deep-sea oil fields of its southeast coast and hope to raise up to $26.5 billion. The National Petroleum Agency says 4 blocks up for auction are estimated to contain as much as 15 billion barrels of oil, nearly double the size of Norway's reserves. The agency estimates the sale would be followed by nearly $370 billion worth of investment over the next 10 years. The government says the highly anticipated sale could turn Brazil into the world's 5th largest oil producer. President Jair Bolsonaro has been pushing to become a member of the OPEC oil producers cartel, but the oil auction is facing opposition from indigenous activists worried about the impact of future oil spills from offshore fields. Time to take a look at the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.